Follow our voices and sense our intentions. We just watched the 3rd episode of Ahsoka. I'm Max.
I'm Matt.
And I'm Luke.
And this is Force for Thought. Hello and welcome back to Force for Thought. We just finished watching Ahsoka episode 3 and we are going to review it now. It is fresh in our brains. We literally just paused the TV, although we did go back and watch a couple extra scenes to give us a couple minutes to put some final thoughts down in some semblance of an order. So let's start with just initial reactions. Matthew.
I loved it. I think this is the big episode before kind of the big reveal of whatever episode 4 will be, which will mark the halfway point. I think the scene that we just rewatched, which is Hera talking in front of the assembly of the senators, and then getting Jason, I think is the best scene in that episode, which we can get into a bit. But yes, I loved it. I think it is building on the world that we already love. LT?
I don't want to be too predictable, but it was, again, a 10 out of 10 episode. Oh, yeah. Absolutely loved it.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be anything less.
Knocked it out of the park. It was shorter than the other episodes. I think
it did not feel shorter.
37 minutes.
I agree.
I thought it did, but I think I knew that it was shorter going into it, so I kind of had it in the back of my head. Like, even when it ended, Matt was like, oh, I didn't think it was going to end right there. And in my head, I was like, I kind of did. But I saw that coming, unfortunately. Unfortunately, because I wanted more of it. It was great, but everything that we got was amazing. I said going into it that because it was a little bit shorter, I thought it was going to be a little more action-heavy, which I feel like we definitely got.
Yep.
I think the second half of that was all just one big space battle, and it was a really good space battle.
That was
I'm
my
a
notes.
sucker for space battles.
It looks amazing too. Like, everyone was giving Kenobi a lot of flack for looking not as good.
Oh yeah,
this show
I didn't even think about visually.
No, it looked amazing. It looked fantastic. Like every little thing in this show looked so good, and that space battle was intriguing the entire time.
Yeah. We got to see people work together in a dogfight. I've been craving that for as long as I've been alive.
I wrote that, and it's a huge moment too when she finally kind of starts listening to Sabine.
Yeah, they trust each other.
Yes, which is up until that point they were losing when Ahsoka's just like, "Yep, go do your thing, I'll do mine," and then they finally start winning when they kind of worked in tandem together. And that's something that I wrote down as well, and I absolutely love that.
Yeah, the only other kind of taste we've gotten of working together in a dogfight like this is that I can think of Revenge of the Sith, when Obi-Wan is overcome with the buzz droids and Anakin fires on the ship and then R2 fights him and he tries to scoop some off. And that's like a neat scene, but the whole time I'm thinking, like, practically what is going on in this fight that these people can just take a break for these 5 minutes and deal with these buzz droids? Like, that, nothing like that happens here. Like, this all felt very realistic and natural, and they kept making approaches and we're circling back, and it's like, yeah, that's how space battles would work realistically, and I loved it. Really good space battle.
They made great use too of Ahsoka's ship. Is it a T6? Is that what they keep saying?
I have no idea.
It's gyroscopic cockpit, and the way they kept like spinning the wings of the ship around the cockpit and all their evasive maneuvers and everything like that.
Yeah, like a B-wing.
Really cool.
Something else real quick in that is I think that Sabine, I think, delivered one of the best lines, like some of the best acting I think we've seen in Star Wars, and such a simple moment. But she says, I got it, I failed. I think, I don't see the exact words, but she's like, I shot, but I failed. And she like is trying to do the best that she can do, and she's like disappointed, not just for like Ahsoka, but she feels like she's disappointed in herself, and that's something that we don't see much in Star Wars, I feel like, but we did in Last Jedi, which is why Max and I always talk about it as well, is that we like to see people not failing, but like we like to see the reality of, you're not going to get it right the first time. You're not going to be the end-all be-all, right, and the best person ever at every single thing. And so I liked that moment of seeing Sabine say that, and I think the way she delivers the line is like weirdly gut-wrenching.
When did she say that? I don't remember that part.
In the middle of the dogfight? I don't really remember it either.
Oh, we got to go back and watch it. Right, pause. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, it's when that's when then she says to go down and drop. It's like that's when she goes and she misses. She shoots and she misses.
Oh, yeah.
It's a great moment.
I remember that part, but I don't remember that line exactly.
But you're right. That is a great moment.
Yeah.
Got to rewatch that now.
It's so good.
We're kind of going in a weird order already, so I apologize for that. Anything else we want to talk about for the dogfight real quick?
That was around the time when Hu Yang had that fire line when Ahsoka asked if he has any thoughts, and Hu Yang says, not on the structure, but I have many thoughts on everything else going on.
Yeah,
it's great.
I have several thoughts on everything else going on.
And then as a classic droid in Star Wars, just completely disregarded.
Yeah, classic. But yeah, do you want to start from the beginning, or do you want to? I mean, obviously, there's things surrounding that dogfight that we can go into, such as Ahsoka's spacesuit and that whole sequence. Or do you want to start?
That
at the
was
beginning?
so cool.
We saw something like that too in the Clone Wars, and I'm glad that they brought it back.
Yeah.
Even had like a similar face covering.
Yep. I like
I was
how
gonna say
there's
we saw something similar in Rebels because Ezra fights with his lightsaber on a spaceship.
Mm.
Am I thinking of Rebels? Maybe I'm thinking of Rebels. I
Oh.
forget.
I think
don't
anything,
remember what you're talking about from Clone Wars. so
anything
maybe-
that's associated with the show, I'm just gonna assume it's probably from Rebels.
I'm gonna double down. I'm gonna say it was in Clone Wars.
Damn
it could have been both.
We'll
We'll
I
see.
think the suit also is custom made for her. So it's
Mhm.
it's so funny. And I was like, I wrote this down. I was like, is it goofy that she's doing this? Absolutely. But is Star Wars goofy? Absolutely. And I feel like some people are going to give it some hate as well. But yeah, I mean, it was awesome. I mean, it was so cool to see her do that. And then also like the fact that she's like, yeah, I trust Sabine, so I'm going to go out there and yes, I will float in space for a little bit, but she'll come get me. Like I'll be good.
Keeping with Ahsoka and Sabine, let's talk a little bit about her training that we saw at the beginning of the episode.
That was my favorite part. Matt, you said it
Yeah,
was the senators.
Oh,
I
yeah.
loved
Oh,
the
sorry.
lightsaber training.
Yeah.
That was so cool. The subtitles refer to it as a Zatoichi, or I'm sorry, Ahsoka refers to it as the Zatoichi lightsaber technique, which is a new lightsaber technique. We've known about 7 forms in canon and legends, and that is not one of them. So that's interesting. And the subtitles refer to it as a wooden Bakken saber, which, what the heck is that? Like someone from Lucasfilm, maybe Dave Filoni himself, like said to the subtitles people, like, hey, just so you know, this is called a wooden Bakken saber.
Yeah.
And whether he said that for a future story purpose or not, I love that it's in there.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, that's not in anything else, right? Because it feels like something that would be in Visions or something that none of us have watched. But doesn't it feel like something that would be in Visions? I don't know. Yeah, I agree. That I love that little bit of lore too, like you just said, Luke. And I didn't know about the 7 fighting stances and stuff too. And I love that. I love your knowledge of all that stuff because I feel like I learn so much as we talk every single week on this podcast as well. I'm sure you feel the same way about me.
And it was really cool too seeing Hu Yang's lightsaber glow stick
Oh,
thing.
yes.
It was just like a light, but you could see where the lines were crossing, where she was like
Mhm.
going through, and then he was able to like bring them back up basically and show everywhere she slashed and everywhere she
Mhm.
missed and everything, and he was like judging her
such a
results.
practical and logical way to
Yes.
to train lightsaber technique. And
Yeah.
if you have the technology to do that, that's so smart.
I also like him having 4 sabers as well. It felt very cool to see.
You want to see General Grievous fight Hu Yang now?
Yeah, I really would. I don't know. Yeah, I love the fighting scene. I think I don't know, seeing the show looks so good, and like just like living in that space again for that long of time, being able to see Sabine actually fight. And I love, there's so many good quotes already in the show, I feel like, as well. But like she says, you not only have to train the body but also open your mind. And I think that's like, I think that's like obviously the basis of like Star Wars. And I don't know, and being a Jedi, and I think that Ahsoka's encapsulating that really well. And I feel like she's being pretty stoic still, but I feel like we're getting a little bit of that snips back. She's again very stoic, but I think
It
letting
was
loose.
towards the end during the dogfight when she started to trust her more. Because
Yes.
you're right, when she was training her, she was still very, very stoic,
Yeah.
very straight faced, unemotional, and then I think you kind of got like a little bit of fear in her.
Yes, and I
during the dogfight.
man, I really like that because I like her being kind of stoic, and I feel like I've seen a lot of things that are like, oh, this is like they drained the last bit of her personality, and I don't think that's true. I think she's just who she is.
I think we see a very appropriate amount of personality for
I
who
agree.
she is.
I agree, and I think that she's evolved, and she's going to continue to evolve, and she can land back somewhere in the middle, a little rubber band. And the last thing about the training, which is later on, but one of my favorite quotes from the show, from this episode specifically, rather, is that Ahsoka says, "I don't need her to be a Jedi. I just need her to be herself." And I think that is such a great line from the show, and I feel like that encapsulates Ahsoka herself. And even though she is like a very stoic Jedi, even though she's not a Jedi, it's so confusing to say every time. I think that is like encapsulating of just like being the best that she can be.
It is the proper theme that Star Wars should be making, and my biggest gripe with the sequel trilogy as a whole is that the whole thing that I liked about The Last Jedi was it kind of followed that theme. Where it was like, oh, you can be a nobody and still make a difference, or be a Jedi or whatever you want, or kind of like in this way, the way they phrase it is, you don't have to be a Jedi, you just have to be yourself.
Yeah.
And then obviously The Rise of Skywalker kind of turned that on its head, and it was like, oh no, actually she is a Palpatine. You do have to be somebody special in order to make a difference. It feels like, but I like that this is taking a slightly different thematic approach, where it was like, like, no, you don't have to be a Jedi. You can just be yourself.
Yeah.
I love that.
And I think we're seeing a new form of Jedi.
Luke
maybe.
didn't like that analysis. He
Ray-
just
Potentially.
Ray was
Oh.
still being herself in The Rise of Skywalker. I'm not going to digress that far into a whole tangent, but I don't appreciate that jab at The Rise of Skywalker. But I agree it's a good moment in Ahsoka.
I didn't mean for it to be like a jab per se. I still like The Rise of Skywalker, but
I feel jabbed.
a new it's your least favorite movie though.
What was it? It probably is. But
One
it's
of
still
them
amazing.
has
It's
to
still
be,
Star
though.
Wars.
I know, I
One of them
agree.
has to be.
I know, I agree.
This might have been my least favorite episode of Ahsoka, but
It
what
was,
does that
yeah.
mean? It's
it
still
your
a 10.
is it your least favorite episode of Ahsoka?
I don't know. I haven't thought about it that hard. Probably just because it's shorter.
Yeah, I
no
agree.
Balin Skull content.
Yeah, I agree. I was just last thing about the thing Jedi, and I want to move on. Is I feel like this is maybe a setup for kind of a new Jedi Order in the fact that you don't have to be the end all be all at every single thing. Like Luke Skywalker is the best Jedi, right, of all time. He's able to do basically virtually everything. And I feel like maybe
There's a statement.
I think Dave Filoni said it was Anakin.
sure. Either way, one of the Skywalkers are going to be the best. One of the best
Well, we also got Kit Fisto in the running.
Skywalkers.
According to the Kit Fisto
Best
manifesto.
Jedi. But I think either way, but I feel like I do like the idea of this potentially being more of like a team thing. If Sabine is great with being able to, maybe she can't be like telepathic, I guess, in a way, but maybe she can just fight really well and be able to use her powers in that way. And I feel like maybe more of a team of Jedi who, they're not the best of all time, right? We don't need the Tom Brady of Jedi in every single show or anything as well. I don't know. I kind of got off topic there at the end.
A couple things I wanted to say about the lightsaber training stuff. I loved it. The line from Ahsoka, anger and frustration are quick to give power, but they also unbalance you.
Yes.
That was so like on the nose, and it was like so like it played out physically as well as spiritually. And it's interesting seeing something that's like so on the nose like that. And it's like, does it have to be so on the nose? But it's in Star Wars, it does. And it works that it is so directly like applicable in multiple ways like that. And the metaphors are not veiled very thickly. The one moment that pulled me out of it a little bit, my least favorite moment in the show, only moment I didn't love, absolutely, is when Ahsoka puts the blinder on Sabine and she says, I can't see now. How am I supposed to fight? And it's like, yeah, Luke Skywalker said that, haha. But Sabine fought for years with blind Kanan. Like, we know she knows how she's supposed to fight. This
That's
isn't
hilarious.
news to her that there's a way for Jedi to see without seeing.
Would you say that scene's reminiscent of A New Hope?
Yeah. I think it was influenced.
What about the force training? I really like that part too, where she was trying to move the cup. I thought for sure we were going to see it wiggle a little bit. I'm kind of like that they didn't.
I agree.
Yeah.
I like the last shot when it stares back at you a little bit. It's
Yeah.
like tempting you almost a little
I
bit.
kept
loved
thinking
it.
Hu Yang was going to come in with a pile of rocks and say, no, try it with rocks instead of cups. It works better.
I also feel like I want to know what they were drinking because like Sabine was just like
was
shooting
tossing it back.
like a shot, and her facial reactions were like whoa. But I'm just like,
That's funny. I didn't.
you
notice
should be
that.
piloting though. Like you're gonna have to. Like, what are you
You're
guys?
driving right now?
Was Ahsoka drinking in the first episode when she was training her in the second episode?
that was coffee. That was Space Calf.
That's what it looked like. But I guess the cups were a little taller last ep. But anyway, yeah, that's I did like the force training. I mean, we got lightsaber and force training while also learning about not going to the dark side, not clouding your mind with anger.
And character development. Yeah.
all within this action-packed episode, right? I'm using action-packed. It was action-packed, but we learned all this development, and now it's like, okay, maybe we can move on now, or maybe we can dive a little deeper. But these lessons are learned in the fact that obviously Sabine, like any Jedi, is going to have to overcome anger at some point as well.
Yeah.
So let's-
I don't want to insult something else like Max did so ruthlessly with The Rise of Skywalker, but
Insane.
when you don't spend half of your episode with Boba Fett walking through Tatooine, you can get a lot more done with your show.
Look at that. I mean, that's a great point. I mean, oh man.
Again, love the Book of Boba Fett.
Oh yeah, loved my rewatch, but this show obviously is just a lot better paced, and it was a lot more fun watching the show because when we went to rewind to watch the senators and the Jason scene, it was like 10 minutes in, and I was like, oh my god, there was only 10 minutes
Yes.
before this because so much happened.
I had the exact same thought. I was like, wow, I thought this was significantly like later in the episode.
That's why I think that it felt so much longer than it was.
Yes.
Because so much happened. And there was so much like lore stuff and plot stuff and character stuff.
So let's talk about that. So they met with
Yes.
the senators and Chancellor Mon Mothma, right?
Yep.
They referred to her as Chancellor.
Yes.
Senator Xiono, who, for those of you who don't know, is Kazuto Xiono's father. Kazuto Xiono is the main character in the animated TV show Resistance.
Yeah.
I was
sorry.
really worried that because they said that Senator was Xiono in the trailer shot. You see these senators, and I thought it was just going to be like a little Easter egg, like, oh, that guy's actually Xiono. But no, he's a character. Like, he's a driving force in this show with interactions with Mon Mothma and Hera.
Yeah. And
He
this scene
is
specifically,
kind of not villainous, but antagonistic towards Hera, but rightfully so. Like, I understand his side completely. He's just trying to allocate funds for the Republic, and Hera is trying to take them to go on a
Potential mission
right,
to find
on a
somebody in a
potential
completely
mission.
different galaxy.
I don't know.
A friend of hers that she believes is alive that no one else thinks is. I mean, I get all of his points. And
Rebellions are built on hope. That's all I'm saying. I feel like
rebellions are built on hope, but republics are not, and that's what that scene was about.
Ooh,
That's true. I feel like this is I think, like I said this earlier in the episode, I think this is the best scene in this episode, not the show obviously so far, but in this episode, because Hera is one of my favorite characters, as I said before, and I love her interacting with Mon Mothma, but I also think Mary Elizabeth Winstead is such an incredible actor, and I think she plays that scene so well.
I agree. She
Yeah.
was like Sabine from animation to live action, absolutely flawless.
Yes.
Can't tell a difference. Same with Ahsoka, and same with Chopper, obviously. And Hera was the one that I was like, Vanessa Marshall's performance as Hera in Rebels is so like, it's also in part because of the characterization of Hera in that show being like the de facto mother of the Rebels crew, but she has such like a warm motherly tone.
I was gonna say warm,
and
yeah.
Mary Elizabeth Winstead does not, but she doesn't necessarily need it for this version of the character with this set of circumstances, being a general in the New Republic as opposed to the leader of the rebellion and the Ghost Crew itself. And it really shined a lot better in episode 3 than it did in episodes 1 and 2.
I agree.
Yeah.
And she's hardened, and I think like when she's being stern, right? And I love when she breaks when he says that Ezra died heroically, and she says, "You don't know that," and she like completely breaks, and she's teary-eyed, and then Mon Mothma says Hera, and she snaps back into it, and it has to be that general again. I mean, it's the subtleties, that and the Sabine line both. I'm like, I think potentially we are dealing with like some of the best acting in Star Wars, I think, that we've seen, because it is so subtle. And I don't know, I was just laser locked into both of those scenes. And I think just seeing also Mon Mothma and Hera interacting are like two of the coolest characters like ever, and seeing that interaction is so stellar. And then again, just the performances were so there, and learning this information, but also like you said, like I'm always on the side of Hera, right? Or I'm always on the side of like the main character. But you're right. You're in that scene. She's probably maybe on the wrong side, right? In this Republic, you can't really just have resources randomly go to Ahsoka because she's the main character of a show to
Right.
kind of go and deal with this stuff. But yeah, I absolutely love that scene. And then obviously at the end we get Jason, which I feel like you guys can want to speak more to.
Well, first though, and when that line when she responds to Senator Xiono, who said that he believes Ezra Bridger died heroically, and she said, "You don't know that," and she kind of snaps a little bit there. It was coming right after that line where she said that Thrawn killed my friends and people like family to me.
Yeah.
I think obviously hinting at Kanan, who was her biggest loss,
Yeah.
the father to her child, and now she wants to find Ezra, who's kind of like another missing piece of that family almost. Like she knows she can't get Kanan back, but she wants to do anything she can to get Ezra.
Yeah.
And I really like that line too, where she tells Senator Xiono, she's like, "Did you fight in the war?" And he says no, and she said, "You just sat back and wait to see whoever came out on top."
Yeah.
And I like that line, like from a storytelling perspective,
This
obviously.
is working, this is great.
But you get such conflicting emotions about it, because I'm kind of like, that's kind of a low blow, Hera. Like, I don't like that, because I feel like there's a good shot of Mon Mothma too, and she's like, it's hard to read her emotions, but like you can tell she was feeling something in that moment, and I think it's because she didn't fight in the war.
Yeah.
But we're seeing now in Andor the things that she did do in the name of the rebellion.
Yeah.
And she probably did things that none of these other people even know about. And when she says stuff like that, she probably has this thought of like, we all fought the Empire.
Yes,
We
but
might not have been in the rebellion, but you can't say that because you don't know what we each went through individually.
yeah, that's a great thought. I was gonna say before we started recording, we had like a 2-second interaction after we recorded, and I was like, oh, I love that line, and you're like, it's such a low blow, and I was like, no, I mean, I still disagree because I still feel like if she directed that on Mon Mothma would have had a good witty response versus just silence. Which to me, if you did any sort of thing, you would have some sort of response back versus silence.
I think it's really good writing.
Yeah.
I just think it's a low blow and one
yeah.
that's hard to dignify with a response because
Yeah.
you're trying to have a logical conversation and she's now bringing emotion into
Yeah.
it. And I think that's when they were trying to like starting to politely wrap up the conversation by
Yeah.
just saying like, all right, why don't you leave the room for
Yeah.
a little bit?
I find myself pretty firmly on Senator Ziono's side in all of this because
Damn it, Luke.
I mean, he was probably just the imperial senator from Hosnian Prime. The Empire got overthrown by the rebellion, and now there's a new republic. He's still the democratically elected senator from
Yeah.
Hosnian Prime, just representing them in a new form of government. It's not really his fault that he didn't join this rebellion. Like, it takes a lot to join a rebellion, and just because he didn't join the rebellion, I mean, that does make him almost by definition an imperial before, but it's not that imperials can't join the new republic now that the government's different. Like his values probably, I guess I'm imposing a lot of thoughts on him. His values didn't necessarily certainly align with the Empire just because he wasn't a rebel. And now that he's not aligned with the Empire because it's gone doesn't mean that he can't be a member of the new republic. I think that was a low blow.
I agree. I think it was, but I think it's still good writing though, because I think it's a really good moment, like I said, where Hera starts to get emotional. And I always try to think of it too in like a real life context, right? And when you think of real life wars, such as the American Revolution, to me, that was kind of like saying like, oh, John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, like you guys didn't fight in the Revolution, but it's like, well, they still did stuff. Like, and we don't know that, right?
I did not get the vibe that Ziono was on a John Adams or Thomas Jefferson kind of scale. I thought I believe that
No,
he was like
I mean,
still an
those-
imperial up until the Empire was gone.
Well, why do you think that though? We don't
I don't know.
that.
If they made a Hamilton
based on that
musical
scene, that
in
one scene.
the galaxy, would he be a character?
Not in the rebellion. I don't think so.
Well, let's wait for Andor season 2. I don't know. I feel like Andor is the.
I would love so much if this guy showed up in Andor season 2.
I would too,
it's
actually.
It's not beyond the realm of
No,
possibility.
I was
That
just
could
thinking
happen.
that. I
Yeah.
think that would actually be rad because then that's what Filoni is doing so well, though. I think with anything is that we're introduced to these minor characters. They're like, oh, that's cool, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh my god, that like might be my new favorite character. I feel like there's just so many little things like that I would love to be able to see that.
I'm also so excited to rewatch Resistance because I don't think that Kaz's dad, Senator Ziono, really supported him joining the Resistance. And that's interesting that Ziono didn't join, or Senator Ziono didn't join the rebellion, and now Kaz really wants to join the Resistance. And
I can't wait for Ziono to be a mole, and you guys eat your words later on. No, I'm
he's
just
a full-on
kidding.
imperial.
Yeah.
Interesting.
No, because we know
What,
he survives to the time of the First Order and then dies on Hosnian Prime when Starkiller destroys it.
Oh, spoilers.
You had your chance to see Star Wars Resistance.
No, I did. I'm just kidding. Let's talk about some of those other senators.
Well,
Do we know who they are?
No, the other two humans did not recognize them at all. I'm glad they got speaking roles. The Gran,
Same.
I kept thinking
I
of
think
the.
that guy's like a famous actor, isn't he?
Is he?
No idea who he is.
Couldn't tell you.
Classic.
I just kept thinking of that Gran in that scene because there's a Gran in Palpatine's inner circle in Attack of the Clones, and he's always just standing there off to the side, and it's like, hey, maybe it's that same guy got the same role.
Right.
Just stand there and represent the Grand people. Good job, guy.
It's hard to, or it's easy to make different species look good when they're also a blue hologram.
And not talking.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not getting anything on IMDb. Looking at episode 3 specifically for
I'll
that guy.
have to do some more research into that. I'm thinking of the guy who plays Dr. Manhattan in the Watchmen TV show.
Oh, that's not him, is it?
It looked like him, but I don't know. I didn't.
Isn't
I don't
Dr.
know.
Manhattan blue? How can you're just thinking of blue people?
No. Watch the TV show. It's good.
I know you're still reading Alphabet Squadron, so I won't spoil it, but Hera and Mon Mothma have very similar conversations to the themes that were going on in this episode about the things you can do as part of a rebellion versus the things you can and cannot do as part of a republic. And it was like the exact same vibes. Like if it was part of the rebellion, Hera would absolutely be on her way to Cetos or wherever this place is called, where the Eye of Sion is. And Sabine is blown away that Hera's not coming. Sabine has obviously not been part of the New Republic at all, any of the government or bureaucracy of it. And that shock just hit me like a gut punch. Like, this is how the world is now, Sabine. Like, you're not part of a rebellion, you're part of a republic. And there's certain things that you need approval for, and you can't just... She's not just like in the New Republic, she's a general.
Yeah, she can't just go off, and she's gonna lose. She's got a family. She's got things she has things to lose.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just heartbreaking because I feel like Sabine has had so much happen to her since Rebels, but she's still that same person that just wants to find Ezra. And Chopper and Hera and Zeb, probably, who knows, have gone off and like started whole new lives and have moved on a lot more than Sabine has. And I think that's going to come up a couple more times.
Yes, which is what I was talking about last week a little bit too, is that it is like inherently sad because of that fact, is that not everybody moves at the same pace.
Even in the Rebels epilogue, Sabine talks about how she stayed on Lothal waiting for the Empire to do a counterattack, but they never did. So like she's actually just been sitting on Lothal waiting for the Rebels crew to get back and continue the fight, and it never did. And now she's starting it, but everyone else went off and continued their lives.
She's the Ringo of the Rebels crew, just waiting.
Is that a Beatles reference?
Yeah.
Right over my head.
All right, let's talk a little bit about Jason.
He's got green hair.
He's got
it's
green hair.
Dark, but it's there.
I talk next week about how I thought he might not have green hair, but just ignore that when it comes up on Tuesday.
That's so funny. I also feel like for the past 4 episodes, Luke, you said, Max, you've been reading Alphabet Squadron, so I won't spoil it for you. So you really got to finish that book, dude.
I know. I'm doing you a lot of favors here. And Matt, you should read them.
I know. I really do. I like to read a lot. My wife Lynn just got me the Archives books, and so it's going through the first three books. So that's what I'm currently reading, actually.
That's exciting. That sounds like a good Rogue One once you finish.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, I should do that. Good call. I've been reading a lot of nonfiction lately, but anyway.
So let's talk about Jason and his interaction with his mother, Hera. He was saying about Auntie Sabine becoming a Jedi, and then he said that he wants to be a Jedi, and Hera's response was, "I know."
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, it's
speculate away. What does that mean?
I think it's just in his blood, right? She knows that, like, obviously Kanan was a Jedi, and I feel like it's like, yeah, I know that. Why would you not want to be one, right?
Do you think she would ever foster that, or do you think she's going to not let him do that?
I think she'll foster it.
I think
she wouldn't deny that
I agree.
to him. As a connection to Kanan.
Not only that, but like, she's a general. She's a general, like, in basically fighting wars. I don't think.
I mean, she's not going to do it from like a child soldier perspective.
No. I just mean like
help fighting.
She's also setting an example to go and fight and do good in the world, right?
Yeah.
So I don't think that. I mean, worst case scenario, he grows up to be a general, which is equally as dangerous.
I think there is a possibility that Ahsoka's training of Sabine leads to her unfortunate death, and then Hera forbids it. I wouldn't be surprised if that happens.
Oh, Sabine dies?
Sabine dies.
I don't want Sabine.
Because she's a Jedi Padawan.
Is this your theory? You think Sabine's going to die?
I'm flying by the seat of my pants here. I just could see that happening as a story beat for why Jason doesn't become a Jedi.
I hope there's some reason why Jason isn't trained, because I feel like if he does,
don't say it would contradict the sequel trilogy that he's not there.
No,
don't you? Okay,
I think it would very much fit into the sequel trilogy, where he would probably be turned over to Luke Skywalker's school of Jedi Knights and die there.
Little do we know that he actually dies when Ben Solo collapses the building.
That's a very real possibility.
That would be really sad. But no, she's going to go off with this, or he would go off with Ahsoka and train, not with Luke, if anything.
I feel like Sabine training Jason in the future would make more sense than
that'd be awesome.
Ahsoka. Also, I'm pretty much in the camp that I'm okay with Ahsoka dying. I know we've talked about this. I'd rather have Ahsoka die 1,000,000 times over than Sabine.
Sabine is, to me, becoming more and more the standout of the show.
Oh, she absolutely. I feel like they know that.
It's such a bummer that all the actors are on strike right now, because I feel like Natasha Liu Bordizio is getting a lot of love online.
Yeah, understandably.
She can't really do anything with it because she can't promote Disney right now.
Yeah, that is tough.
It's so,
But everyone loves her, and she's doing great. I think she's the perfect casting of Sabine.
She's literally so good. I mean, oh man, yeah, I don't know. We were just talking about the acting. She's 10 out of 10, like stellar. And I hope she doesn't die anytime soon, because I hope she honestly has longevity beyond this miniseries, and I hope it she's in other IP. I hope she's in the movie coming up, and I hope she pops up in other shows. If anything, I feel like Dave Filoni is great at being able to kind of have that gradient of people coming in and out of shows. And, we're introduced to Bo-Katan in Mandalorian, same thing. And then obviously with Ahsoka in Clone Wars, and then she's in Rebels. And then she's also has her own show. But I feel like she is kind of the conduit between the old and the new. And I feel like hopefully the Ghost Crew can kind of take on, or Sabine can kind of take on her own life after the show, or wherever Ahsoka's story kind of ends.
Yeah, I would love that.
Yeah, and we got the first little breadcrumb trail of Jason. Obviously, he's very young right now, but I mean, the doors are open. Like we saw him, which is exciting. So, what does that mean for the future? Will we get will Jason kind of get his own show eventually? Like, how many years in the future will he? I'm very excited to see where that goes.
I agree.
All right, let's talk a little bit about live action Purrgils.
Oh,
yeah.
Yes. Next week we also talk about how the certain Jedi in the Order have obvious accents based on their design and nothing else. And I think that something similar happened here. They were like, all right, what do the Purrgils sound like? Well, they're whales. So they sound like whales.
Well, thank God. If they were dolphins, I'd be thrown off.
It is an interesting line where they're like, well, this is a whole different galaxy. Everything's totally different. And then some things are just like, well, that's obvious, right? They're whales.
Right.
But they're massive.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
huge.
Very big. They looked awesome in live action. Just the right amount of tentacles and scaly and slimy.
Yeah,
Because they don't need to look slimy because they're not underwater like whales, but they still looked pretty grimy.
And the fact that we're getting this dogfight between them is such a cool setting.
And again, it was used so well. Like when the tentacles were like closing in on itself, and it was like narrowing the pathway that Ahsoka had to fly through.
Going through that scene real quick. I know we've talked about this before, and Luke is the biggest proponent of this, but Shin Hati is so cool. She is like entrancing to look at. Like she's doing something with her eyes and her performance that is scary.
She got
and
good crazy eyes.
Yes, she is intriguing and scary, and I want to know more about her. And every single time I see her on screen, she is so interesting.
She admittedly had nothing to do in this episode other than just sit in a cockpit and look menacing.
And she did it. Yes.
Oh yeah.
She made a huge impression. I'm like, oh my God, like that is a hard thing to do. Like if I did that, you would be so bored.
She's very captivating, and it kind of showed an interesting dynamic with her and Merrick, because she was kind of telling him what to do.
Yeah.
And I think at one point he said, as you wish, which means that he's taking orders from her, who's taking orders from Baylan. So I feel like they're establishing a pretty clear hierarchy there. But I thought that was fascinating. I want to talk about Merrick again real quick.
Do we get into it now?
Because there's a lot of speculation as to who this Inquisitor is, if it's anyone or if it's truly just a brand new character. But there was a lot of speculation beforehand that it was going to be a character from the Force Unleashed video game called Galen Merrick, who is Darth Vader's secret apprentice. He was played by Sam Witwer. And I found out over the week that Sam Witwer is being credited in Ahsoka as additional voice. And I'm very excited to see what that is. He's a voice actor, and there's a lot of other additional voices, too, from previous Star Wars projects and stuff. So I might just be looking far into it. But I really want it to be Galen Merrick, because I think that symmetry of having Darth Vader's secret apprentice confront Anakin Skywalker's former apprentice would be so cool.
I mean, it'd be so great. And also The Force Unleashed is like prime high school, middle school video game playing, and I played the hell out of both of those games, and I think they're stellar. I don't want that for other reasons, but I also kind of do, depending.
Because Matt and I are working on fan fiction right now that incorporates that character for ourselves.
Don't even call it fanfic. But yeah, it's man. Yeah, I mean, the symmetry would make so much sense, and I would also love to be able to see not only if we don't get a flashback of Anakin and Ahsoka training, I don't think we'll get. Oh my God, if we can imagine get a flashback of Starkiller and Anakin,
that would be insane.
That would be insane. I would actually piss myself, I think, honestly, if we got that.
I thought we were about to get a flashback in this episode. There was a moment that was like, it felt like it was leading up to it. I am not on the train that Marok is going to be Galen Merrick. I've seen a lot of theories. Maybe Ezra Bridger. Maybe
I was going to bring that up. What do you think
of? What's her name? Barriss Offee. I have not been on any of those trains. Certainly not Ezra for a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
But I was not really subscribing to the Galen Merrick or Barriss Offee train. But now he talked and he uses a voice changer, and it's like
a very noticeable.
Why is he using a voice changer?
Yeah. But that's.
Maybe it's going to be like a solo reveal where Enfys Nest takes off her helmet and
Right.
it was like, oh, it's a girl? And then it actually is
Oh.
Barasofi.
What do you think about the Ezra one? Because I was thinking about how I don't think it is, but like, if it is, that is like a fate worse than death. I think, right? Like that's the whole point of that character. Then that would be heartbreaking because they keep saying, "Is Ezra dead?" You know, people think he still is, but like if he's actually an Inquisitor now, that is like a fate worse than death. And I mean, obviously, he would have to have, as we've talked about, well, Max and I have talked about before, the brain chip thing that is obviously altering him, that is being able to have him being under the control of somebody as well.
What have you guys talked about before? This is why you can't talk about Star Wars without me. What are you talking about?
Max, do you want to take that over? We were talking about the
Ezra has a mind chip in him that makes him an Inquisitor?
not an Inquisitor, and that's me implying what we've talked about in the past about being able to control somebody.
It was coming from the Aftermath books, and Aftermath Life Debt. They were basically programming people.
Yeah, because Wedge gets mind jacked. or-
Not Wedge, it's
Yeah,
Temin-
Snap's dad.
Snap's dad, yeah.
There's also a
His
comic
biological
though,
dad.
because I have for what we're working on that screenshots of from a comic as well, that you referred me to years ago, like literally 2019.
Which one is it? Do you know?
I don't know,
Ah,
but it's a
cut
comic,
this.
and he's got
escaping me right now.
he's got
but
something in his head, and yeah,
I mean,
it
does he have
affects him.
the cybernetic implant, like Lobot?
Yeah, but it's not that intense.
Oh, from Poe Dameron, yes.
Oh, is it? Yeah.
Terex is his name.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's what we're talking about.
Okay.
But either way, I mean, I don't think that would be, and that'd be so much depth and lore and weird to bring into the show that
That
is
would be
going
such
pretty
a
quick.
rage-inducing amount of development for Ezra to happen off screen.
Yeah. But
Brought back from this other galaxy, converted into an Inquisitor, and then
or
Yes.
if Thrawn, I don't know.
Also,
I'm just saying.
Thrawn
how
doesn't
would he
really
have
do
gotten
much.
back though? How would Ezra
Yeah.
have gotten back and not Thrawn?
Google Maps. He's got it.
And Thrawn doesn't really do anything with the Force anyway, so that Vader's dead. I didn't think that theory held any water before, and I certainly don't now.
To be fair, neither do I. I'm just giving some.
Okay, just playing devil's advocate. It's good. It's good. It's
There's
good.
there's
It's
a
good to
lot
have
of
these thoughts
theories
out there. Yeah.
And again, speculate responsibly. I think it is probably wise for everyone to acknowledge that Marok may and probably is just a random Inquisitor.
I hope so.
Not
I
even a
think it'd
random Inquisitor, just the 8th brother, because he looks the exact same.
Might be the 26th brother. Who knows?
I mean, because the 8th brother's already been introduced in the same armor
Yeah,
in
but
animation.
It's a cool
It was
helmet.
a little different.
Also, the helmet's rad.
Yeah, cool
He-
design.
It was, yeah. It's they get me every time. Every time I see someone in a helmet, I'm like, I want to see that helmet off. Like, it doesn't matter who. I don't know what it is. It's just about movies and TV shows. But like, even with Mandalorian,
It's got to be like a big reveal though. The longer you keep it on, because I
Yep.
feel like there was so much speculation around Kylo Ren during like all the Force Awakens lead up, and then the second he took off his helmet, like 20
Yeah.
minutes into the movie, everyone was like, "Okay, it's just Adam Driver."
Yep. And the same thing happened with Pedro Pascal. It's like, yeah, it's Pedro Pascal.
But it works.
It does. But I want there's something more. Like when Vader takes his helmet off, you're like, oh man, I want an oh man moment.
Marok needs to either die with his helmet never taken off, or have it be a major reveal.
Can you imagine if
Yes, I agree with
it
that.
becomes a plot point of them they want to like Scooby-Doo him, take the helmet off, and he accidentally
Scooby-Doo.
he
Let's
accidentally
find out who this guy really is.
but he accidentally gets beheaded all by a cliff and his head falls, just never to be seen again.
can
See
never
if-
figure it out.
oh,
Oh, that's a mystery forever. And then let's talk about the third villain of this trio that was a little underutilized this episode, Balin Skull. So we only
Yeah.
saw him for a couple of seconds.
Doing
But
the
he was
doing the
pondering.
most with the least.
He was kind of
Yeah.
looking off into the distance and knew that they were hiding in the forest. And in an earlier episode, I think it was the second episode, maybe the first one, Morgan asks him what he sees. So clearly he has some sort of force ability where he can kind of look into the future.
Yes,
which
I
is
meant
a force
to
ability.
bring that up last week. They implied that here. Oh, I forget the exact quote. He said, like, I can feel her presence in the Force or something, and it was similar to Avar Kriss in the High Republic, who can, and is similar to the girl from the Knights of the Old Republic, Balin. I keep thinking Balin Skull. B word something, Shin something. I don't know. But the main girl from the Knights of the Old Republic video game, she has a battle meditation power, which was basically rewritten into Avar Kriss's Song of the Force powers from the High Republic, and they can like hear echoes through the Force through space, not through time, but like all around them throughout great distances, and she can they can connect with people through the Force, and I was getting a lot of vibes like that from Baylan Skoll, and I'm really excited about it. And that does make sense, and I forgot to think about it for this week, that he
Great
can
call.
feel their presence in the forest. Which, this forest, we brought it up. Do you think it is just autumn right now on this planet, or do you think this planet is permanently got red leaves? Because it's super cool.
I think it's permanently red leaves.
Same.
I think it's just cooler to think that. I don't know why.
I also think one of our theories were disproved from our Ahsoka theories and predictions is that all the footage will be in the first 2 episodes. So far, that's proven untrue because in the 4th episode, we clearly will see the Ahsoka and Baylan lightsaber battle when they briefly talk as well. And I'm looking forward to that. My theory, it's not. I don't think it's going to be huge gangbuster or anything, but we're going episode 4. It's going to be presumably a big cliffhanger at the end of it, and I feel like they're going to be battling it out while the galaxy transporter is going to be starting up or whatever. And I feel like
I was going to say that too, because you see the map come up in the trailers.
And
I think maybe Sabine is on the Eye of Sion, and she's going to go to the other galaxy
maybe
while
they split
Ahsoka
up.
fights Baylan Skoll. And hopefully Shin Hati goes with Sabine, and they can have a rematch. And
I
Ezra will be there. God, I'm so excited for this next
There's
episode.
so many possibilities.
I think what's going to happen is they're going to be trying to stop it. And something where they're at is going to have to be something to do with it. And so I think they're going to concoct a plan. Sabine, I don't think is going to leave Ahsoka because the ship's pretty screwed. So I think that they're going to try to stop it on the ground, and they're not going to be able to. And then obviously Thrawn's going to come back with. Will Ezra be with him? I don't know, but I think that's going to be the last shot. I think is going to be like Thrawn from the trailer. Basically, we're going to see a little bit more of that scene, and he's going to finally come back and be and arrive. And I think it's going to be a failed mission. And it's going to be where they're at their lowest point so far in the show. But man, I'm excited to see it.
I'm very excited just to know more about Baylan Skoll. He doesn't pop off screen as like evil or crazy as Shin Hati. Like you look at her and you're like, oh yeah, there's like something behind those eyes. Whereas Baylan Skoll, he just seems very pragmatic. Like everything he does just seems like very calculated and trying to be reasonable. Like in the very first episode when we first saw him, he was trying to get to Morgan Elsbeth and he told Captain Hale, you're making a mistake. And it seemed like a genuine like, don't do this right now.
It'd be a great if they didn't do this in Obi-Wan Kenobi the show. I would love it if Baylan Skoll's whole plan the entire time was to get Thrawn back so he can kill him himself, so there's no sort of going after Thrawn ever again. But that beat has been kind of
mystical that he's going for, because he said to Shin that he's expecting power like you could never imagine.
Yeah,
somehow.
Yeah, he said that just for them too.
It's so confusing.
That's got to mean Force things, probably World Between World things. I would think. Although the World Between Worlds does not seem to be as important to the show as I thought it was going to be, because I thought like the Ahsoka imagery, like the title card, I thought it looked a lot like the imagery in the World Between Worlds, but it also looks a lot like just this one star map, and so that's maybe just how maps are like in the Star Wars galaxy.
I'm glad the World Between Worlds isn't being overused, because again, I think it gets a kind of muddy when you introduce all of that, and I don't know. It works really well when it's used sparingly, which they did in Rebels though. It's pretty sparing, and we're still talking about it. It stands out, but I think it's overused. It can be like, I don't know, but so yeah, I also agree. I think it just looks like the map.
Yeah, which I'm kind of disappointed with, but at the same time, I'm not. I don't know.
But
I just love everything about this show so far.
We only got 4 episodes left of Baylan though, and that's we're never gonna see him again, unfortunately.
Yeah.
There's 8 episodes,
sucks.
right? There's 5 episodes left.
That's true. We just got through 3.
Yep. I'm already considering next week for some reason.
Looking forward to the future, I did find out
Classic Baylan over here.
that episode 5 is apparently the second longest after the first episode, and it is the only other episode that is being directed by Dave Filoni.
Something big. It's gotta be.
Flashbacks. Gotta be flashbacks. That's what that means.
It's gonna be something big.
100%.
Definitely.
Ahsoka, Anakin. Oh God, I'm so excited.
Flashbacks?
Well, I think
Why?
how do you? Because we never.
Instead of
Hayden
Force Ghost
Christensen-
Anakin.
I'd much rather see a flashback though. Hayden
Porque
Christensen.
I'd much
no-
rather see, but what makes more sense though?
Por qué no los dos? We might get both.
Yeah. Also, I feel like that's gonna be the first on-screen of Ezra, because Filoni's gonna have to direct the first time Ezra's ever seen in live action.
Yep.
There's
that
no
too.
way.
God, that episode is stacked.
Or Thrawn.
Oh, I think Thrawn's gonna be the next episode for sure.
You think he's in 4?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
The only shot we've
You don't
seen
think
of
so?
Thrawn in the trailer looks like he's on the bridge of the Eye of Sion.
Yeah, so the Eye of Sion has to go to the other galaxy and come back. It's not like a teleporter. Just it sounds like a pretty lengthy round trip.
Yeah.
That's true, I guess.
I can't imagine him and Ezra are just sitting on a park bench waiting to be picked up, and then they just get on the ship and leave.
Can you imagine if they were, though? Look at how ice cream do you think they're having? It's in New York City, and there's a Central Park, is my mind.
All right, what else? That was everything I had off the top of my head. What other notes do you guys have that we didn't talk about yet?
I have 2 quick notes. One is that I love when they say talent is a factor. When talking about being a Jedi with Sabine, that was hilarious. Which I think she'll also get better at it, or at least to what she has. The fact that she had her gunner position have presets, and Ahsoka took the time to get rid of those presets, is so petty. Like that takes time.
Won't need these again.
Like when you have a controller for an Xbox, you can have multiple presets. Depending, so you got to sign into a profile, understand the password, and delete them completely. Like that is so petty of Ahsoka.
That is petty. I did not read it that way, but that's hilarious.
When she said that, I was like, what in the world? And then the space battle is awesome. I love when they said, are your wires are you cross wired? And then I also loved the scan complete. Like it sounded like E.T. died when he's rebooting back up. But yeah, I mean, I love this episode. So far, it's my least favorite, I guess. But again, like Luke,
Right.
like LT said, what does that even mean?
Something has to be.
I'm so excited. I mean, I'm looking forward to this every single week so far, obviously.
I don't think it is. I think I might have liked this one better than the first one.
Rewatch the first one.
I
don't know,
Watch
Max.
the first one.
The first one has a lightsaber battle between Sabine and
And she
Shin-Hati.
gets stabbed.
Yeah.
It was so cool.
But the second episode has a lightsaber battle between Ahsoka and Marok.
Yeah, and this one had no lightsaber battles.
And that assassin droid. But it had a space battle. And I'm a sucker for space battles.
I'm a sucker for lightsaber battles, so this tracks.
Man, now I'm gonna backtrack and say I don't know if this is my favorite episode or not my least favorite because I love so many acting things in here too. So I'm gonna rewatch them.
I mean, we're really drawing straws here.
Yeah.
It's way too
They're
early
all
to tell.
tied for absolutely amazing.
And it's way too early to tell. We
sorry.
need to see it all in context.
Yeah.
Luke,
Find out
go
how
on
it all
with your
fits
notes
together.
too.
My last notes for the episode, I really like that Hu Yang really had to earn that scan of the Eye of Sion.
Yes.
It's not like he just got a glance at it and was like, okay, I got all the information we needed about
Closer.
it. Yeah, he really made them work
Closer.
for it. Also, the line, you come from a long line of untraditional Jedi. That's one of those lines that means nothing and doesn't take you out of it if you're not that familiar with all the lore and history. But if you do know and you're like, oh yeah, Anakin and Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon and Dooku and Yoda, like it just keeps going and it's so true. Perfect line.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. To me, it just kind of stopped at Anakin. I was like, oh yeah, she was taught by Anakin. That makes sense.
No, long line
Yeah.
of untraditional
A lot of
Jedi.
them.
All right, and then before we wrap up, did you guys have any chance to rewatch the first 2 episodes, and did you get anything new out of it? Because I did go back, and one thing that I caught that I didn't catch the first time was in the very first time we see Sabine flying down that Lothal highway. She's being chased by that security guard in an E-wing, and he identifies himself as Spectre 2-1.
Oh, yes.
Which
I
is
meant to talk about that.
Yeah, Spectre is the call sign of the Rebels crew. And apparently they're up to at least 21. So the Spectre crew is still going strong. You love to see it.
Yeah. I noticed that on my rewatch also. I agree.
Interesting.
Because they only got up to 6 or 7 in Rebels, and so
Yeah, I think it was 6, unless did they ever give Callus a Spectre call
I
sign?
don't remember. He might have. I don't think so though.
I don't remember it. I think they only went up to 6. I think Ezra was Spectre 6, and he was the last one.
Yeah.
That's cool.
But anyways,
Man,
I thought
I
that
did not
was
rewatch.
neat.
I do want to go back, obviously. And then also, I was like, you got to rewatch the first 2 episodes, and you already did.
That's why I said I did. I did.
Have you not rewatched the first 2 episodes yet?
No, it's been.
That is disappointing. And I bet Max, did you watch the first 2 rewatch the first 2 episodes because you were watching them with your wife, like any reasonable person would? Because that's when I rewatched the first 2 episodes. And Matt, your wife just hasn't seen them yet.
I know, which is honestly crazy because honestly, our brains have just been so mush that literally we just been watching Ghost Hunters together, and that's it.
And I did not rewatch it with my wife. I rewatched it by myself. I should
Lauren
make her
has-
watch it though, because she's started to help me make my TikToks. So if you follow us on TikTok, my wife is helping me with those now. She's just bandwagoning though. I had a couple blow up recently, and now she's like, oh, why don't I get involved with this?
Lauren hasn't seen Kenobi though, right? Or Book of Boba Fett. I don't think Lynn's seen
She hasn't seen most of it.
here and there. Has Hannah seen them all?
Yeah, Hannah's seen everything.
Good for you. It took me until 2018 for Lynn to actually watch the movies.
Really?
Yeah,
And
and we've
you
been
were
together
since 2010?
2008.
2008?
Yeah. Yeah, it took that long.
That's a long time.
She was on that hill that she watched A New Hope in 2010, and I was there. She did not watch that movie. I was like, no, you have to pay attention though. But then I was like, I can't be this person. That's annoying. But yeah,
Yeah.
she watched them in 2018, and she enjoys them. So
All right.
does
Well,
no one
that's-
has any force for? I don't have any force for thought. You know what? I do have some force for thought, as this episode will be coming out on Wednesday. Should I do the suicide
that.
one?
What do you mean? This episode will be coming out on Wednesday.
This episode's coming out tomorrow.
Yes.
Is this?
So
Should I do the suicide? What is a precursor? Nah, I'm not going to. I don't need a force for thought.
we need force for thought.
Fuck, I
Hit
know.
us with it.
Should I do the Jedi
I
suicide
don't know
one?
if I do. I don't know what you're talking about. right now.
I am not a fan of suicide,
The
generally
Jedi
speaking. But
Force Ghost suicide.
hit us with it. Sounds like it'll really bring up some good force for
When you
thought.
said instead of paying for living expenses, you can just convert into a Force Ghost and live free.
Oh my god, I didn't consider that fact. Okay.
Jedi already live very minimally. They don't pay much. They're not worried about the cost of living.
Do you think that's true?
Yeah.
All right.
They're basically monks.
So my force for thought this week is a precursor to my Rogue One, which is Star Wars intricacies of the world. And something that I brought up on this podcast as well that we don't go into on that Rogue One episode is the fact that Force Ghost suicide, I don't know really how to phrase it differently, but do you think that as a Jedi, if you're looking to live rent-free, I guess technically if we're talking about real estate, or in general, do you think you would still have that power to become a Force Ghost? I don't know if that's for you guys or anybody else out there, but that is something that has been intriguing me.
What's the question exactly?
I guess like it could be a bad side if you commit suicide, presumably. This is so dark. If you commit suicide, presumably you don't really want to live, but you have the option to become a Force Ghost. So it's really no harm, no foul, I feel like. Is that
maybe it's like
I mean,
a double-edged sword? You commit suicide because you don't want to live anymore, and then you live forever as a Force Ghost.
Yeah.
You come back immediately. Son of a bitch.
That's what I'm saying, yeah. Because where do you live as a not like actually like as a place, but like where do you live like as a Force Ghost? Because you can come and go, or is there just like
You want my actual answer? Is
Yes!
The Jedi mantra and the purpose of their order is to protect light and life, and if you kill yourself and destroy your own light and your own life, then you would not come back as a Force Ghost. In my mind.
so problem solved,
Yes.
right?
Suicide is permanent for Jedi is the problem, and I think it's confirmed into
So you
my
can't,
mind.
you can't use this as a hack to just live rent free.
I don't think so.
You don't think so? So you're saying there's a chance?
Just saying. There's a
Yeah,
chance.
there's definitely a chance. I can't imagine this will ever be confirmed or not confirmed canonically.
I don't know because we talk about some stuff in that episode in the intricacies that I did not think would be confirmed either, and you had a lot of answers. so
I don't know a whole lot about the High Republic, but Force Ghosts was kind of only recently discovered with Qui-Gon, right? Do they ever talk about Force Ghosts in the High Republic?
No, yeah. Qui-Gon is the first Force Ghost that we know of canonically, and then he teaches Obi-Wan and Yoda, and they teach Anakin at some point, which we never really see how that works out because he's definitely Vader as soon as Qui-Gon figures it out. So
can you imagine figuring that out and be like, who do I tell? How do I tell? Can I tell?
have you watched the Clone Wars?
Yes.
There's a whole arc about it.
I
about
know, but
Qui-Gon
like,
teaching
can
Yoda.
you imagine being that for the first time, like realizing that you can do this?
Qui-Gon just looking around. Oh my god. Oh my god.
I did it, baby. I'm back, baby.
Yeah, people keep complaining about how the lightsaber stabs don't mean anything. Qui-Gon got stabbed by a lightsaber and then lived forever after. So I don't want to hear it anymore.
Man, yeah, that's true.
All right.
Anyway.
Well, let us know what you thought of Ahsoka Episode 3. Did you love it or did you love it a lot? You can reach us on social media at TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. I think those are all the places that we are at. Reach out to us, follow us. We got some good stuff up there. If you're listening to us, give us a like, subscribe, rating, whatever you can do wherever you're listening to us. It helps the channel go a long way. And we will see you next week for our next review of Ahsoka Episode 4.
Yeah, can't wait. And look out for the Force for Thought store coming out soon. It's really going to push me to do it. See you, Sammy.